All right, well, my name is, as I said, is Gil Salazar. I work with Oncor Electric. And I'm going to talk today about LED lighting and our pilot program. And I don't know if we have the PowerPoint.
Just advance to the next slide.
Okay, I got you. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about our pilot program, our involvement with LEDs, what we've learned, and those sorts of things. But I'm sure many of you are aware of Oncor, but for those of you who are not, we are the electric utility here in DFW. We also have territory all the way out to Midland, Odessa. We go all the way north to the Oklahoma border. And we have territory all the way down to Austin and then out to East Texas, the Tyler area. So we got a big footprint. We got a lot of street lights, 400,000, more than 400,000 actually. I think the last count was 421,000. And we have that many street lights. We do a lot of repairs. We average about 65,000 repairs every year. And we have a wide range of wattages. So we have some LEDs that we are testing that are 46 watts, and we even have some mercury vapors that are still out there that are 1,000. So we got quite a variety of fixtures, quite a variety of technologies, high pressure sodium, metal halide, mercury vapor, and now with the pilot program we're testing LED lighting as well. So you can imagine with 65,000 repairs that we do every year, LEDs present us with the opportunity of not making those trips and not having to maintain the bulbs and the photocells and those sorts of things, especially if we install a photocell that has a longer life to match the LED fixture, which is what we're looking at. And then the other thing is from a customer service perspective. So we have 400 cities. I'm sure Mindy will talk about it here when she talks about Arlington, but cities are looking for energy efficiency. They're looking to reduce their bill. They're looking to reduce their consumption. And so this presents an opportunity from them. And then also with the communities, they're looking for aesthetics, and LEDs present the opportunity for a whiter light, which seems to be favorable to the orange glow of a high pressure sodium. So for all of those reasons, we looked at LED lighting. And then also from a company standpoint, we're committed to innovation. We're committed to energy efficiency. As many of the panelists in the last one talked about, the incentive programs that we have for energy efficiency. And then just also a continuous improvement mindset that we have. We're constantly looking for different technologies, different ways to do our business. And LED presents that. So with that, Oncor invested $1 million about 6 years ago in LED technology to test different manufacturers. And so we selected 5 manufacturers and across 6 locations in the Metroplex. And we also partnered with Roam Technology to monitor all of those lights and to track them and to see how they perform. So what we tested was for the light output. We also wanted to look at the degradation of the light. So when we installed that light, we wanted to see how it performed, and then also how it performed through the degradation period of 6,000 burn hours. Aesthetics was another important piece. We wanted to make sure that our communities were comfortable with the look of the light and the look of the fixture. And then also reliability was a huge importance. As a utility, we want to make sure that it's going to last, that it's going to perform, and that it's going to be a safe technology, and it's going to light up the roads. And so with the monitoring technology, we also were able to collect electrical data. We're able to monitor the consumption of the LED lights. And then also it provided us with real-time outage and diagnostics of what was going on with the light. So really there was 2 main purposes. We wanted to evaluate the performance of LEDs in the Texas utility, make sure that they were robust enough to withstand utility grade application, and then also make sure that the weather that we have here in north central Texas, they were able to withstand the weather as well. And then the other thing was the effectiveness of the monitoring technology, make sure that it was accurate, that it worked, that it was something that potentially we could use for a system-wide implementation. So with that, really the key findings, it's been 6 going on 7 years now that we've been testing both of these technologies. The LEDs, we found that there was a significant variability between manufacturers. So some performed extremely well, others did not perform as well. And in fact, some of them we no longer are testing just because they didn't withstand the utility grade application, and then also the weather. They didn't hold it up through the summer months. Significant reduction in cost was another big thing. So the average cost of a fixture was about $700. Now they're below $300. So over the 6-year period, significant reduction in the cost. And we got favorable response. So it's almost unanimous. Whether you asked our communities, whether you asked residential customers, they like the light, they like the color of it, and they like the performance of them. What we did find was that the driver was the key to performance. So the manufacturers that put in a driver that had a surge protection in there that was quality enough to withstand, again, utility grade application, those were the manufacturers that performed well. The ones that did not invest in surge protection, those did not perform as well. Also, the color temperature is trending lower, as we heard in our last panel. So when we installed these, 6,000 Kelvin wasn't standard, and that's what we installed for our initial pilot deployment. Now it's down to where we're debating, do we put in 3K or do we put in 4K, and that's kind of where the debate is currently. So that's really another benefit of a pilot program, right? Because now we have the opportunity, when we do a mass deployment, to put in the color temperature, to put it at a price point that is close to the entry point. And so those are the things that we're happy that we did a pilot program, because now we're in a much better position to do a system-wide deployment. And then improved fixture efficiency. So we're seeing the wattage significantly drop from where it was 6 years ago, and the lumen output is going much higher. So just better technology continues to rapidly improve, and again, a pilot program really has benefited us in that regard. And so the monitoring system, it's been extremely accurate. If it tells us the light is off, we go out there and it's off. If it says it's a day burner, it's day burning. It tells us, we kind of joke that it's a little bit too accurate, because it tells us everything that's going on with our infrastructure and what's wrong. And so we've replaced underground cable, we've replaced transformers, we've expended a lot of money, essentially because that roam technology is telling us what the flaws are out on our system. So it's been very good for diagnostics and for reporting accuracy. And then improved restoration time. Again, we're not waiting for customers to tell us that a light is out. This technology tells us it's out, so we're proactively going out there and making repairs. And then data analytics. So all of these lights have data and monitoring, and so we're getting all of this information. It just allows us to create reports, spreadsheets, and really look at it holistically to look at how our infrastructure is performing. Better inventory oversight. So this was probably the biggest benefit that we didn't realize 6 years ago when we installed this, is that it provides us the opportunity to have oversight over our entire inventory. And so when you have 400,000 lights and you have storms, you have carpool accidents, you have different things that affect your infrastructure, you can lose lights. So if somebody doesn't report that a light came down, if storm comes through and it just doesn't get accounted for, that light no longer exists. But on our records and on our books, it's still out there. So if you have monitoring technology, in the event of any of those instances, you know that you've lost a light, it's no longer communicating, and you can go out there and make repairs and make sure it doesn't get lost. So huge benefit of monitoring systems. And then the next one, which I don't want to steal Jennifer's thunder too much, is smart cities and smart technology. So monitoring systems really open the door, not only just for the maintenance aspect that Oncor is interested in, but also for traffic control, for pollution sensors, gunshot detection, video, parking, all of those things. And so, again, as the electric utility, we want to stay in tune to what our customers, what our cities, and what our communities are interested in. And so, if we provide monitoring solutions, then some of these things can be realized by our customers. So, that's kind of where we're at with our pilot program. We're currently waiting a LED tariff. And at that point, we'll be ready to offer LED lights to our cities, over 400 of them, and hopefully you won't see as many of the orange high-pressure sodiums, and you'll start seeing the whiter, greener technology that LED offers. So, one quick picture, you can't see too well, but this is in Grand Prairie. This is our pilot location. We really like this picture because it shows you a side-by-side comparison of high-pressure sodium and LED lights. So you got 200 watt high pressure sodium there on Jefferson, and over on the right side is 147 watt, I believe, LEDs. And that's all I had. Yes, sir.
So I'm Tyler Harris. I am with the General Services Administration. For those of you who don't know who that is, that's the federal government, and we are the property owners for the federal government, basically, and we own and operate the federal buildings for all of the federal agencies that are inside of your cities and communities. So we handle the projects and the operations and maintenance, and we pay the bills, and we do the construction, and we do all the things that are behind the scenes. So hopefully you never hear about us because, or never have heard of us, besides maybe a few instances. And so we kind of do all that behind the scenes work. I just wanted to start with a question, and how many federal employees does it take to change a light bulb? Hopefully we'll get to the answer of that at the end. You can tell that these are federal employees by their age average of about 87 and a half, and just how excited they are that this simple task is being accomplished. So hopefully I actually dispel that myth through this presentation, but I just wanted to hit on a program that we do at the General Services Administration. So you heard from Oncor. They're doing a test on outdoor lighting. We're doing a test on indoor lighting. And we're doing this through what we call our green proving ground, where we take emerging technologies, and I'm going to go to this slide first, but we take emerging technologies and we put them in a pilot technology installation, basically, where the companies will actually gift us the technology, and then we partner with the Department of Energy and usually in a private lab like Berkeley or several others, and we run them through a rigorous M&V process to determine what kind of technologies we want to deploy. And we put out reports, and unlike Oncor, we actually name the names. So, so when you go to the reports, you will actually see how the technologies fared one against another. I just want to also point out that GSA and the federal government, we really pride ourselves in running efficient buildings, and compared to national averages, we do very well, and we are striving always to raise the bar, lower the bar on energy efficiency, however you want to look at it, and we are always looking for new ways to innovate and improve. And so for this test bed project that we did with indoor LED lighting, or we're actually in the middle of right now, our primary objective is for broad deployment of LEDs in our facilities in Region 7, which is Texas and the 5 surrounding states. And we are looking to broadly deploy either through performance contracts or just through normal capital investment into our buildings, indoor LED lights that are going to be the most cost effective and produce the best results. And so this is a look at the building that we did. I apologize for the handwriting to get all these in here, but basically we took one of our buildings and we went and we got 5 manufacturers to gift products, and we set them up in different zones throughout this building. We used IntelliLume, Energy Planning Associates, Axis LED, Philips, and RAB are the companies that are participating in this pilot project. And each of them, we wanted them to give us their very, very latest and greatest in terms of the type of lights that they're using and the lighting controls that we're implementing. And some of them also use third-party lighting controls because they don't have a lighting control solution. And we required them to provide the design and the layout for the lighting, and then we are paying for the installation and the MMV for this work. We're testing light levels, and this is one way that we do test light levels to see how evenly they disperse, that they're hitting our lumen requirements that are laid out in our guidelines, and just making sure that they're performing and seeing how they're performing one against another. So how is success going to be measured? We want to reduce energy usage, obviously, that's one of the main drivers. We want to reduce our overall costs related to O&M and changing light bulbs, as we've talked about before, reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And then we're also looking at things that aren't directly hit on the utility bill, such as how easy are these to install. And we're timing these installations, whether they're retrofits or whether they're full change outs of lights. We're getting with our installer, and we're actually surveying them afterwards to determine how these lights compare one to another for installation. We're also looking at maintenance over time. And another big hit that we're really focusing on is we've already surveyed all of our tenants on the lighting that they're in right now, and we're going to survey them after the installation to see how they like the light levels, the aesthetics of the light, and the other parts of the lighting systems. So it's kind of obvious, I think, why we're going to survey the occupants, because we really want to serve our tenants, the federal agencies that we serve. We want them to be happy in the space that they're in and to have a good working environment. So we're going to be surveying is a big part of it. This is the general schedule. We're in October now, which is the installation. We'll probably be finished up with that in the next week or two. And then we're going to start the assessments in November. And then in December, we're going to do the occupant post-installation survey. We're going to continue the test for the following year as well. And then obviously we'll continue to look at it. These fixtures are going to stay in the building for as long as they don't fail. And we're going to continue to look at that performance. So how many federal employees does it take to change the light bulb? It was kind of hopefully you see a two-sided question. We want to know how we're going to change our light bulbs in the future, and we wanted to look at it in that perspective, and that's why we're taking this incremental approach to make that happen. So another plug for the presidential campaign. The project manager information is on here, and so is mine if you want to reach out if you have any questions. But I'll move on so that we can.
Yeah. Thank you, Tyler.
Okay, so in Arlington, we took on LED upgrades for our streetlights. I was the project manager of that. I was the assistant director then. So it was one of the first tasks when I took that position was get LEDs in our city. So I had a crash course in learning about LEDs back in about 2011, 2012. The project basically was to retrofit our HPS, our high wattage HPS, into the low wattage LED so that we could generate energy savings as well as save us some money and reduce our carbon footprint. So Arlington owns its own streetlights. We're governed off the Oncor tariff on Schedule D. So with the 21,478 streetlights that we had at the time, only about half of those were favorable under the current tariff to be converted to LED. And when I say favorable, that means that they would generate a cost savings for us to retrofit them. So our rates are set by our retail electric provider and by Schedule D for Oncor. So basically our goals and objective was to plan, manage, and maintain our infrastructure. And how would we do that? We would optimize it by reducing the energy and the maintenance cost, improve our streetlight reliability with LEDs, and then our ultimate goal was to convert all 21,000 of them. Quick note on our maintenance costs. We have 8 guys that are on our streetlight crew, and they maintain all 22,000 streetlights. So converting to LED was great, but the only problem is that we're still on 40 and 50-year-old wiring. So converting to LED allows us to now focus on upgrading that wiring to make our system more reliable as a whole. So we spend about $1.6 million a year on streetlight lighting, streetlight energy alone. You can see that we're number 3 behind all of our city buildings and our pump stations. So we figured with the limited maintenance resources that we had that we could generate savings and lower our maintenance output. So what did we do? Where do we begin? We had some very early streetlight projects, some pilot programs that we had that we really just cooperated with some developers and got them to put some lights in for us. And basically all we did was look at them and say, yeah, they look great. And that was basically our pilot program. So we didn't really get focused on converting our streetlights until 2014. And at that time, we partnered with Optera Energy Services, and I'll give a shout out to Jeff Howland with Optera because he was instrumental in getting this kicked off. And so that was the beginning really of our conversion. So what did we do? We solicited RFP, well, Optera actually put out an RFP to get vendors. We evaluated 7 different vendors, and you can see some of the areas where we evaluated. We scored them each from 0 to 5 on all these various different factors. We then shortlisted that to 3, and we had those 3 install their streetlights out in a section on one of our arterials in Arlington, so that we could judge them side by side for the output. We also measured photometrics before and after, so that we would make sure that their lights covered exactly what we wanted, the output that we needed. So then with the 3 of those, we had them come in and bring their street lights, which was very interesting, because once you handle these, you'll see that some of them weigh 25 pounds and some of them weigh 9 pounds. And if I'm up in a bucket and I'm lifting something up, I think I want the lighter one. Luckily, I haven't had to do that, but so then we did our final selection, and we actually chose Leotech for our final selection. And again, we had to phase implement this because with the current tariff, only 10,500 of our lights offered an incentive to change them out. So that was our first phase. Again, right here, you can see 10,000. We had 150 watt and 200 watt that we changed to 95 watt. The current tariff allows anything from 0 to 100 watt LEDs. Nothing above that is accounted for at this point. Some of the things that we considered was a 7-pin receptacle, because eventually we want the monitoring system. We don't have it today, but we do want to go that way. So the 7-pin receptacle will allow us to expand our system and get the monitoring that we want. Phase 2 was the retrofit of our entertainment district lights, which those are chem lighting. It's more of your upscale lighting fixtures, and we changed out those. We changed out 310 Cobra heads and 210 high mass fixtures on State Highway 360. The reason we chose that is because our system was very, very poor. You'll notice that those are higher wattage. They did not fall under the tariff, so we metered those to capture those savings as well. The metering does add a little bit more expense, but because our system was in such poor condition, running that was an upgrade, so we went ahead and did 360, and we're reaping those benefits as well. So this program, this pilot project for streetlights, was part of a much bigger program across the city. And what we did was we took the savings that we would generate through streetlights, because it's pretty substantial, and we bundled it with other projects across the city to upgrade some of our old mechanical that was not energy efficient, and some of the other building lights and air conditioning units, so on and so forth. So that we had a much bigger project for $10.5 million over 15 years. And you can see that our savings are about $750,000 a year, and over 445 of that is from streetlights alone. So you can see here where we reduced our energy by 47%. Our estimated material savings, that's $15,000 just for streetlights alone. But the maintenance, again, is the big piece that we are realizing that we are now being able to focus on our wiring and not so much chasing burnout bulbs around the city all day. So we're getting a lot more done. Our open work order count has gone from over 100 a day to less than 30 a day. So we are seeing a significant impact on our operations. And then here's some before and after on Green Oaks Boulevard up in North Arlington. No, this is not by the stadium. So, a different section of Green Oaks before and after. So where do we go from here? We need to work with Oncor to get the tariff changed so that we can retrofit our residentials. We have about, again, 10,500 of those that have not been changed to LED. Once we have a friendly tariff, then we can move forward with phase 3 of this project. We are working with Oncor right now to see if virtual metering is an option, to where it would actually read the wattage, and that would be the price that we would pay instead of the tariff, which is a large range, because some of these fixtures are like a residential fixture, you could get down in the 25, 30 watt range, and instead of paying a 0 to 100 watt, it would actually measure and save us additional money. In addition, you can dim your lights, you can turn every other light off, so there's ways that we can capture additional savings if we were able to virtual meter our lights. So again, the energy savings along with the capital improvements, that was a win-win for us. It was a very smooth project thanks to Jeff and his group. So we're looking forward to phase 3 whenever we can get an updated tariff. There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, we've talked locally about some efforts here, so I wanted to highlight a couple of projects around the country and cities that have undertaken slightly different approaches to pilots and LED lighting. So the first is in Kansas City, they've done kind of a multifunctional smart cities strategy around this corridor, around their trolley line. So the lighting piece of this is they went with a Cisco solution called Sensity and replaced 200 Cobra headlights for use along this streetcar corridor. These lights have some of the additional functionality that Gil mentioned, which smart cities, just to give, does anyone know what smart cities is or have familiarity there? Okay, so the joke is if you ask 20 cities what a smart city was, you'd get 20 different answers. So from our perspective with the DIA, we wanted to come up with a firm definition that we could work from. So the smart city definition that we're working from is, it's where economic and social infrastructures kind of combine and work together to improve economic development, improve resource efficiency, and most importantly is to improve quality of life ultimately for citizens. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means in practice. But to Gil's point, and in Kansas City, they really wanted to create multi-use cases off of these light poles, because what I'm hearing in conferences around the country around smart cities is cities need to really recognize the value of these light poles, and the light poles are becoming the most valuable real estate that cities have because there are so many different ways you can use them. Already public right-of-way, already owned, already have power, and so what else can we be doing with those to kind of improve quality of life and help cities to measure against several different goals, connectivity, sustainability, energy usage, air quality monitoring, things kind of across the board, and that's really just a subset. But in Kansas City, they wanted to both manage the lighting. We talk about that automated light grid feature and that portal. The sensors also can detect the time of day, and so they won't kick on until the sun goes down. They automatically, if you think about a grocery store aisle with the cases where the lights go on as you walk by, these lights have the capability to be motion detected and activated. And so far they've seen, and these were just installed in 2016, so these are very early results at this point, and we're waiting on some additional reporting. But immediate 20 to 30% electrical savings. Kind of a standard across the country is that just improving lighting can decrease violent crime by 10%, and they've certainly already seen that in this corridor. The lights also have video camera sensors, can sense obstructions in the trolley line, so when we think about public transit and how can we also minimize costs and increase awareness around those signaling, that's something that they're also utilizing the lights for. And then we've already heard a lot about the tariff rates, and so the challenge that Kansas City has expressed is the challenge in capturing those cost savings right now. They're still in a flat tariff rate as well, so they're also working through how do they get a specific LED rate so they can really capture more of those savings. Operational and repair and all of those across the board are certainly being realized, but they want to go that next step, so they're working on that as well right now. So the next steps for Kansas City, they're looking at the full replacement of, they have 95,000 streetlights in Kansas City proper. So this, from their perspective, if they go with the same solution across the board, would equate to $36 million in capital. The current projections are that this would save $1.25 million in operating energy costs annually. So that's what Kansas City's been working on. So San Diego is the other city that I wanted to talk through, and they replaced 3,000 of their lights in their downtown core around their stadium and particularly around the tourism and convention center areas. And they did decorative, these were all decorative fixtures, and as you can imagine, those are significantly more expensive than Cobra heads, so just keep that in mind. But these 3,000 was straight LED retrofit, so just the bulb and the light grid for now, and they're saving, I believe, 65% in energy usage, and they are saving $250,000 a year in costs. and that's within the first year. And I know for their phase 2, they're going to incorporate parking. There's video cameras that can be integrated into these lights now. And so they're going to be monitoring parking, so doing parking optimization, looking at dynamic pricing models, because all cities are looking for the sustainable financial model. How do you continue to pay for these projects? How do they fund themselves? How do we not have to go back to the city 3 years after deployment and say, sorry, actually I need a couple million more dollars to keep this going. So really looking for kind of that closed loop financial model is something that everyone's looking for. But through the parking optimization, it helps with staffing in terms of violations and how are they doing their ticketing. How can they really work with their parking model to increase revenue that way? So that's another way that cities are looking to increase revenue and kind of maximize the investment on the lighting specifically. So the Dallas Innovation Alliance, so just to back up, our organization is a nonprofit public-private partnership. Our mission is to design and execute a multi-phase smart city strategy for Dallas. And what that means is, like all of the panelists have talked about, is the importance of a pilot, really looking at a scaled boundary-driven area to measure initial results, make sure that we're making the right investment and making the right decisions when we roll out citywide. So for DIA, let me just ask, who grew up in Dallas? Okay, who remembers the West End about 20 years ago? Okay, got it. The West, it is still there. It's got a little bit of a different identity, and I know I didn't grow up in Dallas, I grew up in Chicago, but my husband did, and he talks about the West End is the place to be, entertainment district, and took a pretty pronounced dip, maybe more so than some other areas of downtown. So what we're already seeing in the West End, we looked at it and we thought, what a great opportunity to help revitalize this neighborhood. There's already a great deal of a shift in the companies and industries that are down there. It's become a real creative talent magnet, a lot of entrepreneurship, a lot of startup activity. So this really contributes to this living lab that we're building down here. So in terms of narrowing in the scope for our pilot, we're looking at a 4-block corridor on North Market Street. That's right through the heart of the historic West End. And our goal, in a larger sense, is to incorporate between 5 and really 8 smart city projects into this concentrated area so we can really measure kind of the integrated impact. So a lot of cities undertake kind of isolated smart city projects. They'll do the lighting in one part of the city, they'll do waste management somewhere else. And the real value of smart cities is in the data. And so if you can look cross-functionally and cross-project at that data, you can get insights that you probably won't get if you look at them in a vacuum. So we're doing a fully integrated platform. We think that's a differentiator for what we're doing in Dallas, is to be able to really look at all of those pieces on an open platform. All data will be available to citizens and the public. And how do we really get that kind of comprehensive look? So the projects that we're taking include obviously smart lighting, waste management. So there are solar-powered compactors that have sensors that measure when they're full, so they're only emptied when they're full, reducing truck rolls and carbon emissions. We talk about multifunctionality, so there's several different things that we're doing that can house connectivity or public Wi-Fi or small cells in a way that are, we talk about light poles becoming Christmas trees in terms of all this equipment on it, and there's a lot of new ways that you can kind of house that equipment. It eliminates the amount of street furniture that you have, really streamlines walkability, and a lot of pieces like this. So those waste management receptacles can house small cells in them, so that can be a Wi-Fi hotspot strategy. If you're familiar with the Link NYC program, they're replacing all of their payphones with these digital kiosks that can help with wayfinding, video cameras, all kinds of, you can really do anything that you're looking for in terms of the software. So their public transit authority utilizes it with wayfinding, special events, city services, things of that nature. So we're going to pilot that in the West End as well and really look to work with local businesses and the Historic Commission. So walking tours that happen down there, it's all going to be pulled in to, our hope, really improve the citizen experience down there. Smart irrigation, so obviously looking at water savings in some of the public parks, could be Dealey Plaza. Let's see, smart parking. One of the things that citizens are most excited about is the smart parking aspect, where you can obviously locate parking, locate available parking, and we hope ideally you can reserve your parking before you leave the house. So instead of Google Maps or Waze getting you to your final destination, you can actually go directly to your parking space. And our hope, in the larger sense of that use case particularly, is there's a lot of perception that there's not enough parking in downtown Dallas. We know from utilization rates in a general sense that there is excess parking. And so we want to be able to show that and back it up with data, and maybe there can be different use cases and really different land use to provide more green space and kind of repurpose that land. Okay, so talked about the differentiation. Our scope is the 4 blocks. So we're testing around against several KPIs. You know, we're looking at economic development, local retailer activity, obviously energy and water cost and usage, public safety, transportation and mobility, and several others. But that's an overview. The outcome is our ultimate goal is to provide a case study to the City of Dallas that showcases what the results were, which projects we think are both sustainable and provide the ROI that would justify the upfront capital expense of citywide deployment, as well as showcasing multiple financial models that can provide different options for how these get paid for. And from lighting specifically, all right. So we're specifically probably going to work with 2 different vendors, 2 different pricing models. You know, obviously there's a straightforward capital investment, and there's that model, and a lot of lighting companies are moving toward lighting as a service, kind of lease options. And so, for example, one company that we've talked to is, I believe it's $200 a fixture, but that's over a 10-year period. And so really looking at what makes the most sense from a cost standpoint. And we're incorporating that automated light grid feature, environmental sensors, crowd detection. We talked about the gunshot detection. And so really the crowd obviously correlates strongly to public safety in terms of when are we dispatching officers, how can we be more efficient with the human capital utilized. Pilot length is 1 year, reported out quarterly, and concluded with that case study. But midway through next year, as we have these results, really talking to different council districts, identifying their needs, and going ahead and starting with the path forward on what planning would make sense for other council districts that may have a different density, different needs. Oh, we lost a picture here, but so this is a rendering that Boca Powell did for us on kind of the vision of what the West End would look like. If you can see this halo effect, everything with a halo is a smart city element that will be added. So aspirationally, you know, the building owners are going to help participate with green roofs, potentially solar, and different aspects there. There's just a picture of the West End Gateway. Got my contact information in here. I would be happy to talk to anyone either today or following the group. And thank you.
Thoughts and questions for our panel?